Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to talk about files, more specifically how to read and write to files using Python, which is very important because it doesn't really matter what kind of programming you do, you'll most likely have to work with files at some point. So I have this text file right here, and I want to open it and alter it using Python. Now, the first thing to do is to make sure that your text file is saved in the same directory as your Python script so that the program knows where the file is and can access it. Now, to open and read this file in my Python program, I just have to write all of this. So these are two ways of doing the same thing. First with this with context manager, which I'm going to explain later, and then this way here. Okay, so let's break this down. First, this with keyword, which I've talked about, is what's called a context manager. And it basically just closes the file automatically after we're done using it so that it doesn't run indefinitely. That's all. So don't worry too much about it, but I am going to make a video about context managers in the future, so stay tuned for that. And if you didn't use this with statement, you would have to close the file manually, which is what I've done here. So I basically created a variable data, set it equal to opening the file. I'm also going to explain all of this later. Then I've printed it, and then I've closed the file. That's all I've done here. So let me just delete this. Okay, and now this open built-in function basically allows us to open our files, and it allows us to specify whether we want to open them in read mode so we can access them but not modify them, in write mode so we can write to our file from our program, or both of those. So it takes generally two parameters. First, the name of our file. My file is called income.txt, and then the mode. This symbolizes write mode, this lowercase r. So basically, this opens the file and allows you to read it, but not modify it. And I wrote this R here, but if you don't write anything, the program just opens the file in write mode by default. And finally, this as income here basically allows us to change the name of our file. So now when we want to refer to our income.txt file, we don't have to literally write income.txt every time. We can just refer to it as income, which is the keyword I've defined here. And lastly, I've created this variable here, which is equal to reading the income file. So income.read. And I've printed data. Okay, let me run this to show you what it looks like. So as you can see, this prints the file in its entirety. And this is okay because in this case, we're working with a small file, but in larger files, it could lead to memory issues, right? Because your program is trying to run all the lines in the file all at once. So to fix that, you might want to individualize the lines of your file. In other words, you might want to get only a certain line or a certain number of lines instead of the whole file. And you can do that in a variety of ways. So you can write, instead of this income.read here, you can write, for example, income.read line. And now if you print this, this is going to print only the first line of our file. And if we do this a couple more times, so let me copy this and paste it right here. If we do this 4 times, for example, which is what I've done here, this is going to print the 4th line of our file. So let me just delete this. Okay, you can also write read line, so just add an S in there. And this reads all of the lines of our file separately. So you can see that each line is separated by this special character \n here. So in case you don't want that to appear, you can use a for loop instead of just printing this. So let me comment this out. And now I'm going to write for line in data, like so. And then I want to print line. And now let me run this. But now, as you can see, we're facing a different problem, which is there's a blank line here in between each line of our file. So if you want to fix this, it's really easy. You just have to strip each line. So you'd write dot strip, so the strip method, and this would eliminate those blank spaces. And there's another way to fix this, which is instead of doing that, by adding a parameter end, which is going to equal an empty string. And now if I run this code, you can see that the same thing happens. So the reason this works is because when you print a line of your file, the program automatically ends it with an empty line. But if you do this end parameter here, it ends it with an empty string instead. So the problem is eliminated. Now, instead of individualizing the lines of your file, you can individualize just a certain amount of characters. So let me delete all this. And then you can just write income.read. And then in here, you would put the amount of characters you want to read at a time. So for example, 10. And now let me uncomment this. And now if I run this code, this is going to print only the first 10 characters of my file. And now if you do this again, this is going to print the next 10 characters and the next 10 characters and etc. So if I do this 3 times, this is going to print the 20th to 30th characters of my file. Now, this could get a bit confusing because if you have a bunch of these read statements, it is very easy for you to lose track of which character you're at. So you can use the method .tell, so income.tell, to check the position you're at. And let me just print this, which I forgot to do. And now if I run this code, this is going to give me 32. So this is the 32nd position. Now, the reason this is 32 instead of 30 is because when I read this file in Python, the hyphens in the original file were substituted by these weird characters right here. Now, if you want to print the characters back at the beginning, you can use the .seek method. So income.seek, and then the position you want to reset to, which would be 0, so the beginning of my file. And now let's print a couple more characters. And now if I run this code, so this resets the position you're at. So it gets the first 30 characters of my file, then it goes back up to the beginning, and then it prints the first 10 characters of my file. So this would print the first 10 characters of my file. And the seek method works for any position you want. So for example, if you write 10, this is going to get the 10th to 20th characters of your file. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope it was easy to understand. If you learned something, please like and subscribe. Next video will be about writing to files, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you then.